All right, everyone. I'm Andy. Welcome to this week's Team Kentucky Update. The Lieutenant Governor is also going to pitch in today with a number of important topics. None more important than the fact that early voting opened today. Brittany and I had an opportunity to go at some of the earliest moments to make sure that our voice was heard. In person, no excuse, absentee early voting before Election Day begins today and runs through Saturday, November 3rd through the 5th. The in-person election is on November the 8th. This is one of the bedrock principles of our democracy. Everyone needs to get out there and vote, no matter who you're going to vote for or what you're going to vote for. It's important that you make your voice heard. So please get out and vote. All right, next we're going to talk about economic development. Private sector, new location, and expansion projects continue to flow into the Commonwealth. And today, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to highlight some exciting projects at various stages of development. We have a new announcement for a company growing in Eastern Kentucky, a groundbreaking for a Northern Kentucky project we announced in the spring, and an investment in a site in West Kentucky. Year to date, we have announced 14,400 new jobs for Kentuckians from companies investing nearly $8.5 billion in the Commonwealth. Since I took office in December of 2019, we've seen well over 700 new projects contribute more than $22 billion in new investment in our economy and add 41,000 jobs for residents statewide. That job creation is creating higher wages and more opportunities in every corner of the state, with some of the biggest companies on planet Earth picking Kentucky for their biggest projects in their history. It's a pretty special moment where we have a chance to be the generations that change everything in terms of opportunity for those that come after us. As a parent of two middle schoolers, the possibility that we can reach that stage where every child can pursue whatever dream they have, and they have the possibility of doing it all right here in Kentucky, is something special that I think we should all be working towards. So kicking us off today is Emerald Energy and Exploration Land Company, which has been creating jobs in Eastern Kentucky for the past 12 years. Currently located in Prestonsburg, this right-of-way land acquisition and project management services company is relocating to nearby Salyersville and creating an additional 25 full-time jobs with a $1.4 million investment. The company is the first to commit to locating in the Gifford Road Industrial Park, which is located near the recently expanded Mountain Parkway. This is important. It shows that the four-laning of the Mountain Parkway is already working. And it's going to open so many communities up to additional investment or expansion. Company leaders noted that the infrastructure expansion was a deciding factor in keeping this project in Eastern Kentucky when it was potentially looking at other places. Last week, I and Congressman Hal Rogers announced $24.4 million in funds through the Abandoned Mine Land Economic Revitalization Program to encourage economic development projects in 9 Eastern Kentucky counties. It included $1 million in this new industrial park for the construction of a build-ready site. Company leaders are constructing a 10,000 square foot facility on 5 acres of land to house their executive staff, project supervisors, administrative team mapping personnel, and field crews. Work on the project will begin in early 2024 with completion slated for 2025. This industrial park is going to take off. This is just the very first announcement. And for each of these counties close to or containing the Mountain Parkway, this four-laning is going to be transformational. So I want to thank the leadership at Emerald Energy for growing in Kentucky and providing a reminder of the importance of continued investment in site and infrastructure improvements, but also continued investment in Eastern Kentucky. All right, if we go north, on Tuesday, I was at CVG Airport to break ground on a project that is creating 250 full-time jobs with great pay and benefits. At least 124 of them will be Kentucky residents. F&E Aircraft Maintenance, better known as FEAM Aero, moved ahead with work on the company's new 3-bay hangar. That includes a $40.2 million commitment. We announced this project in March, which includes a 150,000 square foot hangar. It is going to be absolutely massive. That will house, they think, 3 Boeing 767 aircrafts they can line up and work on all at the same time. It also includes backshop space, office space, and ramp access. FEAM Aero already employs 300 people at CVG, and of the more than 250 new jobs created, new positions include aircraft mechanics and technicians, ground support equipment mechanics, administrative personnel, and management roles. The operation will provide ample aircraft maintenance capacity and resources for the company's growing airline customer base. Think about it. CVG is now the home of Amazon's largest investment in their history. That is their air hub. It's also DHL's U.S. headquarters, and Atlas is there as well. If you're at CVG, you consistently see planes of this size taking off to all parts of the world. Now, we're going to be able to do the maintenance on all of them right there at CVG, creating hundreds of new jobs, and we believe that this is only the beginning of an aerospace ecosystem right there at CVG, which will continue to grow. FEAM Aero has been around for 30 years now. It has 36 locations in the U.S., United Kingdom, and throughout Europe. I'm proud to see them grow. I'm really proud to see them expand, and it's really only been a couple years since, 3 or 4 years since they began operations at CVG. This is another example of companies that have bet on us and invested in us, having one of the best facilities in their company portfolio and thus deciding to do even more in Kentucky. Also this week, we announced a $500,000 Pilot Product Development Initiative grant. That's the PDI program, contributing towards a $3.5 million site and building development investment in Trigg County. The Cadiz Trigg County Industrial Development Authority purchased 100 acres in 2001 for what is known as the Interstate 24 Business Park. This investment will include the construction of a 100,000 square foot spec building, and every time we get one of these spec buildings up, it is almost immediately occupied by a company that moves into it. And it'll be expandable to 200,000 square feet on a 15-acre certified build-ready pad site. This is a great investment. Build-ready sites, sites with pads, and sites with spec buildings are being filled almost the moment they are announced, much less constructed. So to Cadiz and Trigg County, great work. We can't wait to see the jobs that come out of this. Next, I want to highlight an event I attended earlier this week. Revolutionary Racing recently broke ground on what will be a world-class quarter horse track, equestrian center, and entertainment complex. The new horse track is located in Ashland and will make Boyd County a destination for horse owners and racing fans from across the country, further cementing our role as the horse capital of the world. This $55 million investment is going to create hundreds of union construction jobs over the next year, and when completed, more than 200 full-time jobs right there in the Ashland area. I am thankful for Revolutionary Racing, Larry Lucas, the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, and so many more that worked really hard, county judge executive and others to make this happen. Rocky had a big role in this as well. Yesterday, the U.S. Department of Agriculture also announced a series of investments in the meat and poultry processing industry. I'm happy to announce that 2 Kentucky companies were selected to receive investments. Marksbury Farm Foods in Garrett County is receiving nearly $780,000 to expand their production. That's going to create 25 additional jobs in Lancaster. And Lorenz and Hammond Limited Liability Company in Anderson County is receiving $2 million to construct a new meat processing facility in Lawrenceburg. I want to thank the USDA for helping to create jobs here in Kentucky. A lot of the leadership of the USDA and ultimately all the federal ag cabinet are comprised of Kentuckians. Pretty special. All right, some real good news about our fiscal house. As you know, having our financials in order has been one of my goals as governor. Um, Over the last 2 fiscal years, we have had the 2 largest budget surpluses in Kentucky's history. We've had the largest growth in revenue in over 40 years. When I became governor, our rainy day fund was about 120 odd million dollars. It's now $2.5 billion, and it was available to help after flooding or emergencies or when needed. So yesterday, I believe, I received a current forecast from our budget office that is predicting general fund revenue growth that is significant. Right now, we are projecting this next fiscal year, we will have a budget surplus of $1,357,500,000, which would make it the largest budget surplus in our history, even larger than the last 2 years. This is great news, and it shows that despite what's going on in the rest of the country or concerns, our economy continues to hum in Kentucky, and that's in terms of our individuals out there making better wages than just about ever before, or corporate profits, which contribute to it as well. And what it means is that above what is in the current budget, we're going to have over $1.357 billion in just the first year, after just the first year of that budget. So we have more than enough. We have significantly more than enough to put into place our Education First plan that I talked about last week. With the scores that have come out, the concern about learning loss through the pandemic, we cannot make up that learning if we don't have qualified teachers in our classroom. As we sit here today, we have over 11,000 shortages, spots, unfilled spots for educators. 11,000. That means school X might not have a chemistry teacher. That means there aren't enough math teachers in certain counties across Kentucky. And it's so simple. We can't catch our kids up on reading or math unless we have a reading and a math teacher. And if we don't act, our shortage will get worse, and we will not live up to our commitment for our kids. So, to recap our Education First plan, it would include a 5% raise for all school staff. We've fallen in the last year from 42nd to 44th in teacher pay. You want to know why we have 11,000 vacancies that we need to fill? Because we're 44th in the country. And how we value our teachers in terms of compensation. We have to do better, and we should do better right now in this next session and not wait. Next piece is funding for universal pre-K. We want to include math and reading scores. How about having every child kindergarten ready? This is also one of the best things we can do to immediately increase available individuals for our workforce. Restore funding to textbooks and professional development. Folks, if we need to take new strategies to catch our kids up, if we want to look at new strategies in the way we teach different things, we have to have the professional development and training to enable that to happen. It's launching a loan forgiveness program. Now, since the legislature, and I vetoed it, but they overrode it, eliminated pensions for new teachers, we don't have one single retention benefit for our teachers. So you have one bad day, and we could lose a teacher. We're actually losing most of our teachers in the first 5 years. Loan forgiveness will keep them around longer. And next, listen, living through the pandemic wasn't easy on anybody, on our young people especially tough, but it's more than that. It's growing up in the age of social media. So many stresses that, listen, we thought we had it hard, but we didn't have those stresses that our kids face today. Those extra resources are necessary. And of course, the single biggest thing that we could do to attract and keep teachers in terms of compensation is to restore pensions for our new teachers. That way we keep them 30 years. We don't have a teacher for 5 years and find another. They're there for 3 years and find another. They're there for 2 years and find another. We have a stable teacher in that classroom. If you take pensions out of that, we could do all of these and still have over $700 million of that surplus remaining for what is already the largest rainy day fund in our history. We can more than afford this. We cannot afford to do nothing while there are 11,000 vacancies in our teacher shortage. All right, moving on. Yesterday, it was an honor to be in Bowling Green to celebrate and break ground for a much needed center for our veterans. I believe that access to high quality healthcare is a basic human right for all Kentuckians. But when we talk about our veterans, we have a special duty to provide for them. They have sacrificed. Many have given their lives, years of their life, moved their families around so many times to provide the freedom that we enjoy as Americans and to enable what we're seeing happen right here in Kentucky in terms of economic development and possibilities of the future. So providing the best care for the people who fight on the front lines of war, save lives in times of natural disaster, and who serve throughout this pandemic and defend our way of life is nothing short of a sacred duty. Yesterday was an example of how we're working hard to support our veterans by making good on a project 30 years in the making, the Bowling Green Veterans Center. The future of veterans' health is being created there on 25 acres of land. And one of the neat things about this is at what we call the Trans Park. This is where Envision is building their battery plant. This is an area where possibilities for Bowling Green, thousands of new jobs have just exploded. And at the same time that we are celebrating that, we're making sure we do this. This is our job as Americans, as people of faith, is to take care of those that have sacrificed for us. This was also one of the best bipartisan days that I've been a part of. Whether those were our state legislators like Representative Michael Meredith, who we work very closely with on this, or Senator Rand Paul, who was there, and Congressman Guthrie, and helpful on the federal side. This was an everybody working for the betterment of our veterans. And even with elections coming up on Tuesday, there was not one crossword in this entire event. This was everybody doing the right thing. And if we could make every day like this day, just think about the amazing things that we could do. I'm very grateful for all of those officials, County Judge, Mayor Alcott, and many others. I know it was especially important to the mayor, who is a veteran himself. And this is going to be high quality because we provide the highest quality care in all of our veteran centers. So right now we have 4 of these, and they are all 5-star rated. And that is the highest rating by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And we're going to continue to provide for our veterans and our military families. Just this last session, I signed legislation cutting state taxes on military retirement pay and simplifying the job certification process for military spouses. We all too often forget that when somebody comes to one of our bases or other types of active duty in Kentucky, they bring an entire family. And we've got to make sure that we make that transition as easy on military spouses as it should be on that serviceman or woman. All right, quick updates on flooding as well as tornadoes, and I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Governor for some comments. Still sitting 43 fatalities in what is the worst flooding event of our lifetime. Remember, Vanessa Baker is still missing. We are still searching for her. If you have information, please call KSP Post 13 in Hazard. FEMA disaster recovery centers and multi-agency resource centers are still open. You can go to our website to see the full list of them, but you should be going in there to work on your claim if you have not been approved or you have not been approved for the amount that you think you deserve. You can still get one-on-one help and decision-making in these recovery centers. And I'll just give you an example. Since close of business last night, 7 additional applications have been approved for the maximum amount available under FEMA's Individual Assistance Program. These were applications in the appeals process. So these Eastern Kentuckians, I don't want to call them applicants, there are people, have been going to these disaster recovery centers, working with these individuals because the folks in here want to help you. They really want to help you. And 7 were able to probably finally get through the process and secure maximum grants. So please continue to use these centers. FEMA has also approved direct temporary housing assistance for Pike County. That brings the total number of approved counties to 6. That's going to allow them to do temporary housing in Pike, as well as Breathitt, Floyd, Knott, Letcher, Perry, and Pike. If you've applied for FEMA for assistance, you do not need to reapply to be eligible for direct housing. And we are getting closer and closer to being able to unveil plans on locations for permanent housing, and how we, working with FEMA, working with a lot of nonprofits, are going to be able to do that. I will say, in this long-term housing solution, FEMA is being really innovative, and we appreciate that. To date, FEMA has approved $84.5 million in individual assistance. They've received 16,022 valid applications. 8,379 have been approved for some amount of assistance. National Flood Insurance Program, $23.3 million. U.S. Small Business Association, $55.3 million. In our state parks, we're now down to 236 people we're sheltering just in our lodges and our cottages. That's down from 360 on September 1. This is one of the other good signs that we look for about people finding more stable housing. It was one of the ways that we could really see that Western Kentucky was stabilizing. Our Commonwealth Sheltering Program, these are travel trailers, continues to grow. 311 travel trailers on site, 609 individuals sheltered in them, 275 households pending. I will get a breakdown for the next time about how many are looking to have trailers on private property versus one of these areas. Just remember, those aren't 275 families willing to immediately move in to one of these locations. We are at the point where any new locations, we have to build everything out, and that does take time. We're also working on weatherizing these camps. From the EK Safe Fund, we've been working hard thanks to that appropriation of $212 million by the General Assembly in what's been the most nonpartisan special session that I've ever seen, much less been a part of. It's there to help. It's there to help in the days, the weeks, the months, and the years to come. We've already been able to use some of that money, but today I'm announcing another $4.1 million in awards from the Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund to communities and public entities to support recovery. Payments going out this week, $2.5 million to the city of Hazard to help ease financial strain. That's to help them with the costs that they've incurred in cleaning up and rebuilding. $26,000 going to the city of Paintsville to fund a required FEMA match that they have. $130,000 going to Paintsville Utilities to support their FEMA match. And nearly $1.5 million to the Pike County Fiscal Court to support the non-federal required match that they have. Thus far, we've issued $8.5 million in payments from that fund. That's going to be ongoing. We will get other applications from the city of Hazard. We will get other applications from the city of Paintsville. And many of these costs are 6, 7, 8 months out, not in the immediate aftermath. So very grateful for the work of the General Assembly. That fund is coming to the aid of work that is being done and paid for oftentimes by our cities and our counties, and then we're able to come in and ease the strain because no city, county, no area ought to be bankrupted because they're responding to a natural disaster. So the fund is working as it should. Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund, now over 39,000 donations, about $10.5 million donated. Total disbursements are over $4 million. That includes payments for every funeral, all 43. First thing we do is grieve together. And no one who's lost a loved one in something like this should worry about paying for it out of pocket and getting some form of reimbursement. We've also now sent out 7,699 checks for $500 For those approved for any amount of FEMA assistance, totals a little more than $3.8 million. Be making an announcement soon about the use of the rest of the funds, primarily going to long-term housing and the rebuilding effort. I want to thank a couple of old and new donors. The Kentucky Distillers Association online auction dollars came in thus far $1.4 million, which makes them the largest donor to the fund. Remember, they were the largest donor to the Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund as well. Appreciate Eric Gregory, the Kentucky Distillers Association, and so many of the individual distilleries have been giving as well. Our bourbon industry has been incredibly generous in helping us respond to these natural disasters, and we're grateful for it. I also want to thank Shop Local Kentucky and their Kentucky Strong initiative, who donated $134,324.84. This is a company that made it part of their mission to give back to Kentucky neighbors, and we appreciate their contributions both to the Eastern and Western Kentucky funds. Remember, they also had a large check for the Western Kentucky Fund. Donations are still needed. All right, let's turn to the West, because we have a pretty important deadline coming up. As the 1-year anniversary of the deadly tornadoes in Western Kentucky quickly approaches, I want to remind insured homeowners and renters in tornado relief areas to review their policies and to be in contact with their insurance carrier about upcoming deadlines. What we're talking about is private insurance. While each individual policy will differ, here are some things to be aware of and to check your policy. Most carriers do not allow claims to be filed after 1 year from the qualifying event. If you're receiving additional living expenses from your insurance carrier, they typically run out after 1 year from the loss. Additional living expenses are meant to cover what you may incur as you repair your home. Some policies only allow an individual 1 year from the date of loss to file a lawsuit. If you're in a dispute with your insurance company, you really need to look at that. You can file a complaint with the Department of Insurance at insurance.ky.gov or consult with an attorney. For homeowners and renters who still need home repairs, money is still available from the Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund. That's going through the long-term recovery groups in your locality. Finally, we have some good news from the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Earlier this year, HUD announced Kentucky had received $75 million to recover from severe weather events of 2021. And now we know Kentucky will receive almost $49 million in additional funding, bringing it up to $124 million. This money will help us recover from both tornadoes and flooding. But this is not for this year's flooding. It's from flooding in February and March of 2021. We expect to see more help on the way for this flooding, but this is really welcome news, especially as we're working to rebuild, and we can't wait through the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program through DLG to get these dollars out to help people. All right, I'm going to turn it over to the Lieutenant Governor and then be back with a couple of additional pieces of information.
Thank you, Governor. I was supposed to be in Callaway County this morning to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the founding of Kentucky's 72nd county. Unfortunately, the weather made that impossible. I know moms figure out how to solve most problems. I haven't really figured out how to control the weather yet, but I'm working on that. But I'm so sorry that I was unable to be with them this morning. This is such a special day for Callaway County. It's a treasured part of the Commonwealth, and they are such a great teammate on Team Kentucky. Along with Callaway County's bicentennial, Murray State University is also celebrating its 100th anniversary. And this is the 150th anniversary for the Murray Independent School System. So big day in Callaway County. These events provide an opportunity for us to highlight the many contributions that Callaway County has made and continues to make for our great state. So I know President Jackson at Murray State and Superintendent Sammons at Murray Independent, Judge Imus and Mayor Rogers are probably the good kind of busy today. But to all of you, happy 200th anniversary as you celebrate in Callaway County today. I wore my pin for you guys, and I can't wait to be back with you very soon. Next up, we have some nonprofit assistance information to share. So we know that Kentucky's nonprofits do really transformational work, and they really have a critical impact on the daily life of so many Kentuckians. We've had the pleasure of seeing that ourselves as we travel the state. 1,081 nonprofits have applied to the Team Kentucky Nonprofit Assistance Fund, requesting $68 million in support of their missions after the COVID disruption. Applications are still being processed and funds are still available. So for any nonprofit who missed the original deadline to apply, the fund will reopen next week, Monday, November 7th, and remain open until November 16th at 4 p.m. This is for nonprofits who have not previously applied or received an award for the Team Kentucky Nonprofit Assistance Fund. For many of our hardworking organizations operating in Eastern Kentucky, this fund originally opened when they were in rescue mode. So our hope is that in extending this application time, it gives them, as well as many others, another opportunity to apply. Awards of up to $100,000 in unrestricted funds are available for qualified applicants, and nonprofits can learn more and apply at teamkynonprofitfund.ky.gov. Next up, I believe the governor's already talked a little bit about healthcare, but it's worth repeating that we believe that healthcare is a basic human right. And we work really hard every day to make sure that Kentuckians have a healthcare plan that works for them. Enrollment in our state-based marketplace and a health and dental plan is now open. Nearly 13,000 people have already browsed connect.ky.gov to see what plans are available, and over 300 Kentuckians have already signed up for coverage. When the new year rolls around, they will have peace of mind knowing that they have health coverage. All the plans offer essential health benefits and meet other requirements, including prescription drug coverage and coverage for lab visits. And you may qualify for help paying your monthly premium and out-of-pocket costs. So visit connect.ky.gov, or if you would prefer to talk to somebody on the phone, the number that you can dial is 1-855-459-6328. And those signups are available through January 15th of 2023. As a reminder, enrollment in Medicaid and Medicare coverage in 2023 is open through December 2nd. If you are enrolled in Medicaid, you can pick your plan for 2023. Medicare coverage is for people who are at least 65 or older, or people with certain long-term disabilities. Medicare open enrollment is through December 7th. So you have the next several weeks to pick prescription drug coverage or a health plan if you are covered by Medicare. And to see what plans are available where you live, visit medicare.gov or find in-person help through the state health insurance program. You may also get help from a licensed health insurance agent. And with that, I will turn it right back over to Governor Beshear. Thanks, Governor.
All right. Two more pieces of investment news. Late last week, we got some good news from the U.S. Department of Transportation. Nearly $5 million in funding is going to be provided to the Eddyville Riverport and Industrial Development Authority through the department's Port Infrastructure Development Program. The funding will be used to construct an inlet adjacent to the existing port on the Cumberland River to increase the port's operations. This is an important time that we invest in our infrastructure. And of course, Kentucky is right in the center of the country's population. We have the interstates, river, rail, the airports that move cargo like nowhere else. This is another investment that is going to keep us at the top of the logistics game. I want to thank Senator McConnell, Secretary Pete, for their support in this grant, and big congratulations to Eddyville. Railroads, we just talked about, are also absolutely critical to commerce in the United States. So on Wednesday, I announced $2.2 million in investment in Kentucky railroads through the state-funded Kentucky Railroad Crossing Improvement Grant Program. 4 companies received grants: the Paducah and Louisville Railroad, R.J. Corman, Kentucky Railway Museum, and Norfolk Southern. A total of 17 projects are going to be funded. All right, in looking at COVID, let me just start by saying right now, from a health perspective, we're dealing with a lot more than COVID. I'll talk about COVID in a second. That is primarily good news, even though the CDC made a mistake that made it look worse. But right now, flu, RSV, and other illnesses are really hitting our population, especially our children. The report I got earlier this week is that almost every pediatric bed at our 3 hospitals that have pediatric beds, nearly all of them were full, and pediatric ICU beds were completely full. I hope that's eased in the days since I saw that report, but I doubt it. We need to make sure we are watching our kids very closely with what's going around right now and getting them the help they need when they are sick. So that's the tough news. The better news is COVID continues to be at some of the lower levels that we've seen in the pandemic. Now, I will tell you, on Monday or Tuesday morning, I woke up and I saw a map in one of our newspapers, and it was through no fault of their own. They got it from the CDC, and it made it look like we'd gotten worse in the map really from week to week. But the CDC has admitted they made a processing error, and in fact, our map looks much better. So let's show you the actual map for this week. Mainly green, few areas of yellow, but no red counties. This done by our Department of Public Health. Cases really plateaued from last week, up a little. Remember, with all the take-home tests, not everybody reporting their cases. This isn't a perfect gauge or even what it used to be, but it does give us some scales of magnitude compared to past waves or parts of this pandemic. Test positivity is up again, but this may be more of a plateau. We'll have to watch it where we jump. Now, positivity, even in where we are right now, is much higher because remember, these are only PCR tests. These aren't the at-home tests. These are the tests you take when you're pretty sure you have it and you're trying to confirm it. Hospital census, still incredibly low, and we're grateful. Our hospitals may be full with sick individuals. It's not primarily COVID at the moment. Intensive care units, the same. Some of the lowest levels of the pandemic. And then ventilators, the lowest I can remember these numbers being, certainly lowest on this graph that we have seen. So everybody out there, take care of yourself. Stay home if you're sick. COVID is not the only thing that can harm you or your family or people around you. We've had some schools that have had to close because of flu or other illnesses. So really, if you're sick, make sure you're not going to work or your child's not going to school that day. I know the school will work to make up any of that work. We just got to take care of each other while we get through whatever's going around this season. Make sure you get your flu shot. Just think about it. If a couple of schools have had to close for days because of how much flu and other things are going around, getting your flu shot helps them to stay open. You also need to get your COVID booster, the new booster, especially as Thanksgiving is coming up. A lot of generations are going to get together. Those will include vulnerable Kentuckians. Now, you getting your booster helps protect everyone else. That'll be at that Thanksgiving or even Christmas celebration. Please get your booster before the holidays and before it gets cold. Finally, our Team Kentucky All-Stars, our Kentucky high school bands. Over the weekend, high school bands from across our Commonwealth joined together for the Kentucky Marching Band Championships. 30 qualifying bands were in attendance, and 5 class champions were named in 5 categories. I want to emphasize every band that made it this far is a winner and got to participate in something really special. And all of Team Kentucky is amazed and proud at how talented these musicians are, how seriously they took this competition and what they were able to accomplish. So I'd like to name all those who competed along with their band directors and families, because as a parent, I know it takes a lot of time and effort. And I'd like to name them all. Team Kentucky All-Stars. Again, each of the schools, each of the band directors. I will take a quick moment to recognize the top 3 marching bands across the 5 categories. Class 1A, Washington County, Owensboro Catholic, Mayfield. Class 2A, Glasgow, Hancock County, and Trigg County. Class 3A, Estill County, Murray, and Beechwood. Class 4A, Bourbon County, Anderson County, and Christian County. Class 5A, Madison Central, Lafayette, and Larry A. Ryle. Congratulations on this amazing season. Thank you to the KMEA for putting on the championship. Congratulations, everybody. All right, we'll open it up to questions. Just one journalist in the room, and I know everybody knows who it is. Tom Latek.
Thanks, Governor. I'm going to take advantage of you, and I'm going to ask you too.
All right.
So, first of all, you mentioned FEMA and people getting FEMA maximum benefit. What is the FEMA maximum benefit? And secondly, Wallet Hub came out this morning with a report saying Kentucky had the largest decrease in unemployment filings, down 46%. Do you have any idea what may have caused that?
So the one question is on a Wallet Hub report on unemployment claims being down. I haven't seen the report. What I do know is we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in our history. It's been below 4% since April. This is the longest period by far that it's been below 4% in our history. We have the fewest number of people on unemployment since the year 2000, and we have a ton of jobs that are out there. We're also working to get people healthy, to get them to a place where they can be employable. That's why we're expanding Medicaid for hearing, dental, and vision. You know, if we want people to get to work, they got to be able to see to get to work. Next week, we're going to talk about a prison to employment pipeline. That'll move those that are in incarceration when they come out into good second chance employment, both creating a great worker in our economy and reducing recidivism. So a lot of different things going on right now, but you know, what I'm really excited about is just the future possibilities for the next generation. They're going to be able to consider jobs, whether it's ascend elements, recycling our batteries in our phones and putting them into the car batteries. They're gonna have opportunities to make rare earth metal magnets. And one of our new businesses, what I'm really focused on is trying to make sure that everybody can pursue their dream right here. As a dad of a 12 and a 13-year-old, I kind of hear that clock ticking about how much longer I have with them. And then the other question was,
what's FEMA's maximum?
FEMA's maximum benefit, let us get it to you. It's between, I think, $36,000 and $37,000. I think it's $36,900 or $37,900. So we'll get you that number. All right, we got 2 journalists on the phone. Melissa Patrick.
Hi, Governor. So it appears likely that Senator Rand Paul will lead the Senate Health Committee and Representative James Comer will lead the House Oversight and Reform Committee. And both have plans to have said that they will investigate the coronavirus response nationwide and seem to be out for Dr. Fauci. So what do you think about this topic?
Well, I think that all of our public servants, from the federal level and Dr. Fauci to our hard workers in our health departments, have done their very best. And we've lost over 1 million Americans. And these health officials have done their very best. I don't think it's right to kick them after they leave service. These are people who could have made a lot more money in the private sector, and they chose to do their best serving the people of America or here, the people of Kentucky. I'd encourage anyone, if they become a part of a majority, to look forward. You know, what are your priorities? What do you want to do? Not who you're opposed to, but what you're for. If we can get away from this running on who we're against or using positions to attack who we're against, and actually use that time to talk about what we want to do, and then in the positions actually do it, just think about what we could do for this country. So whether it's those two individuals or anybody else, I know they have things they want to do. It was great to stand with Senator Paul at the Veterans Center groundbreaking. My encouragement is there's a lot we could do for the health of the people of the United States. Let's look forward to that. Joe Sonka, Courier-Journal.
Thanks,
Did we
Governor.
lose Joe?
I have a political
there you go.
question. Thanks, Governor. I have a political question for you. When you took office, there were 61 Republicans in the state house. Now there are 75. We have election coming next week where Democrats are only competing in 56 of the 100 races, and most Democrats I've talked to expect to lose more seats there. As somebody who has relatively high approval rating in the state, do you think that you've done enough? You've expended enough of your own political capital in helping Democrats compete in legislative elections?
Listen, my job as governor is to be governor for all the people of Kentucky, and my commitment when I ran and how I've served is to spend the vast majority of my time being governor, not moving a state to the right or the left, but moving it forward. What I've been doing in these last 5 or 6 months is creating jobs, trying to expand healthcare, trying to lay out a vision for education where we can give our kids the very best. If there are individuals that are critical about how I spent my time, I spent it being governor, trying to do the right things, trying to move the state forward. I've tried to be there to help various candidates that I believe in that are running on great ideas, but quite candidly, my job is to do the very best I can as governor each and every day. I don't think that when you run for these jobs, people are trying to elect a head of a party. They're trying to elect a governor or a representative or a senator. And listen, there are lots of movement nationally this way or that way that most people have very little control over. So I think when you look at trends, these have been moving for a long time. Here in the state, they have been moving for several decades, and looking at one specific year, is difficult to extrapolate from. But again, I mean, you go back in the midst of the pandemic, and I told everybody that I was done with politics, and yes, I have a role to play, but that's just not how I want to spend my time now. It's not how I want to spend my time next year, even when I'm running for reelection. What people can expect to see me, the vast majority of every day I'm running for reelection, is being the best governor that I can be. And while I can't claim to know why approval ratings are where they are, I'd like to think it's because I've tried to be a good governor for everybody, not just people of one party. All right, the FEMA maximum is $37,900. All right, thank you all very much. We'll be back next week for another Team Kentucky update.